push to bring in workers from India to Taiwan has sparked backlash on the island.
因为印度人在国际上就是声誉不太好，听起来有点就是歧视，但是就也不是没有来由的嘛。
可能因为看太多新闻吧，就是印度的一些性侵案件这样。
部分来看的话，我们并没有找到很强烈的所谓的数据来证明说印度的移工他的犯罪率，或者是说他的这个。
Why don't you go back to India? I mean, like, you rape women and stuff, right? I don't want you raping people in Ireland. So I think you should go back to India.
India is dirty. Indians are taking our jobs. This starts as a comment, a meme, a joke, until it's not a joke anymore. Suddenly, there's been a lot of anti-Indian rhetoric that's been peddled across the internet. You see it everywhere through politicians, through people from different countries who are scared that Indians are invading and are going to be taking over their jobs. Well, firstly, India was colonized for so many years. So when Indians go to another country, it's with the aspiration of an opportunity, and they would do anything to make sure that the opportunity is not wasted. Because we know what it is to build from scarcity. We know what it is to build from nothing. We know what it is to build from very, very little resources. So where is this narrative coming from? Where is this sudden Indian hate coming from?
The idea that we would bring in a 7-Eleven worker from India or anywhere across the globe into our country to work at a gas station because we can't find Americans to work behind the counter at a gas station. I mean, it's idiotic.
No, what's idiotic is you saying all that while being married to an Indian. Yep, that's right. This girl in the blue, that's his wife. And for anyone wondering why she looks familiar, it's because she's the daughter of Dinesh D'Souza.
And when figures like Donald Trump reshare posts that call India a hellhole and Indians as gangsters with laptops, it really creates a kind of a narrative which is not just funny anymore. It is very, very racist. And that's just not my opinion, that's narrative building. And once this narrative enters the internet sphere, the algorithm amplifies it.
Indian immigrants are absolutely crushing it in America. The average American household earns $65,000 a year. White Americans, just a touch higher. Most Asians do better here, like Chinese Americans at $85,000. But Indians are in a league of their own, averaging $120,000 a year per household. And how do these immigrants come to America and kick ass? They make up just 1% of the country, but own over half of the hotels. They succeed wildly in many industries, especially tech, where a third of all Silicon Valley startups have an Indian founder or co-founder.
Let's talk about the real fear, the competition. Indians, when they migrate abroad, they are very visible in STEM, predominantly visible and very good in STEM fields. They are also the CEOs of many tech companies. They're also one of the largest immigrant workforces globally. So the fear becomes that if there are so many and they are so skilled, where do we go now? What do we have left? And this is a rhetoric that's been building mainly in the US, UK, and Canada, and now slowly spreading to other places. This is called the realistic group theory. People feel threatened by the fact that their jobs or their resources or their status are being taken away from them, and resentment grows. But here's the thing, here's the contradiction. Indians don't take jobs, they create jobs, they create employment, they create industries. So this fear is irrational. It's actually unresolved. The internet is a distortion machine. What is valued and what is amplified? Well, shock, disgust, outrage. All of this, when you see on your internet, is basically because the algorithm loves it. So when videos of Indian street food goes viral, or videos of poorly managed waste goes viral in India, everyone is like generalizing India to that one street food video that they've seen, where they are not using perhaps basic sanitation methods, or where there's a huge waste problem, and everything gets tagged along to India is dirty. Indian people are not hygienic. India is not your place to visit to. These kind of things get promoted. These kind of things get pushed by the narrative. These kind of things get pushed by the algorithm. So what goes viral about India? Slums, dirty street food, extreme poverty, and also to certain levels poverty porn. Not global ecosystems, not global leadership, not tech ecosystems, not its innovation methods.
What country would you never want to visit?
India.
So tell me, why don't you want to visit India?
Because of the bad reputation I got from the videos.
Indian street food is a meme now. If an Indian street vendor doesn't wear gloves, it's labeled dirty, unhygienic, from the slums. And the main issue I see here, gloves. But when a Mexican or Italian food vendor does it, and uncle's clearly using his hands here, these are the comments. There's clearly a double standard here. So is it about hygiene? Or is it about who's holding the food? And as one comment puts it, these videos don't inform, they cherry pick for outrage and views. And the irony, they punch down on communities still healing from colonization.
This is negativity bias and algorithmic amplification. So what people see are the extremist views of India. Now the fact, which is also uncomfortable, India generates 54 tons of waste annually. 2022, about 157 million people still practiced open defecation. Sanitation gaps once cost India 6.4% of its GDP. So the criticism is very valid. India has a waste management problem. India has a pollution problem. It has a sanitation gap. It has overcrowded cities. But here's where the things shift. Criticism is that these are systemic issues, and contempt is that Indians are dirty. And that is just not analysis, that is dehumanization. But if you want to criticize a country, then understand its history first. Under British colonial rule in India, infrastructure was created for extraction, not for development. Many people say that, oh, the infrastructure that the British built is what India is still benefiting from. Well, infrastructure that the British built back in the day, look at the railways or the infrastructure that, people talk about that the British left while they left India, were not for the benefits of the Indians. For creating development in India, it was to extract the goods from India. It was for the looting, not for Indians to progress or India to progress as a whole. Public sanitation was never prioritized. So India didn't just start at zero, it started at deficit. Let's talk about the scale. Over 1.4 billion people are affected. When 1.4 billion people are affected, even small failures become magnanimous, become big. A small failure could actually affect 147 million people. It's a speed of change. In just a few decades, cities expanded rapidly, plastic consumption, overconsumption exploded, urban migration exploded. So development happened so quickly, migration happened so quickly towards the cities in India, but the systems didn't know how to adapt to that constant, rapid, exceeding change. The systems were lagging behind. Cities like Mumbai and Delhi expanded faster than planning, developed informal settlements, struggled to maintain waste systems. India relies heavily on invisible work systems, unstructured recycling, informal wage workers. India needs to make sure that everyone in any kind of sanitation job or in any kind of waste recycling, waste collection jobs should be recognized, should have protection by law. Programs like Swachh Bharat improved access, but infrastructure still lagged behind. Growth happened very rapidly, and there is also a certain behavior change that still hasn't happened in India. The behaviors didn't change because historically cleaning was someone else's job. And this is where India really needs to work on. Cleaning was historically tied to caste roles, so it automatically became that is not my job, which is the worst thing that still continues to happen. Caste is one thing that is still predominant in Indian society, and it still continues to exist where differentiation and kind of discrimination still holds on. So when cleaning your roads, cleaning the streets, garbage collection, waste management, waste segregation becomes someone else's job, or cleaning your toilets becomes someone else's job, an Indian would be like, I'm not going to do it because it's his job. But that is also a caste layer attached to it, which is so problematic. The public versus private divide in India, if you go to any Indian's house, it's pick and span. It is so clean. I think Indians do have OCD when it comes to cleanliness. You go to any Indian's house, it is so clean. And even if they see a speck of dust, they would make sure that it's gone immediately. But that doesn't happen in public. That only happens in private. Why is this public and private divide? When your house is so clean, why can't you keep your street clean? Because when it becomes public space, it's less ownership, it's less enforcement. India progressed and changed rapidly with high consumption, plastic heavy systems, but the habits didn't catch up. And that is very, very, very key to catch up on. And that is a point which is still why India is suffering, because we are still thinking that cleaning the roads or cleaning outside is someone else's job. But there are examples that we can learn from which exist in India and which have been proven successful, like cities like Indore, cities like Surat. Indore leads as India's cleanest city for the 8th consecutive year, followed by Surat and Navi Mumbai. According to Swachh Survekshan rankings, these cities are recognized for exemplary waste management, high segregation standards, and strong public participation in sanitation initiatives. And if you'd say, oh, this is just Indian culture because there is this public and private divide, that is not true, because change has happened and it can be seen. Indore actually achieved door-to-door collection of waste segregation, processed thousands of tons of waste daily into fuel and compost. What changed? System reinforcement, public participation, and system designs that make behavior change easy. At one point, 10% of Indian cities segregated waste. So this isn't a culture problem. This isn't a mindset problem. It is a systems problem with proven solutions. So if the problems are real, then who is responsible? Not one government, not one person, not one historical incident. System built over time that still continues to exist and get maintained in the present. So yes, littering happens in public. Segregation isn't looked at as something that's important. Public spaces are treated not as mine. So systems have failed, but also the people inside the system have failed. This isn't just India's burden. Global demand drives cheap manufacturing. Outsourcing pushes production pressure into countries like India. Many a times, countries like India have to take in the waste, have to take in the garbage, so that you can call it recycled. When it reaches your country, it becomes recycled. Climate change driven by industrialized nations intensify heat and environmental pressures in India. When people say, why doesn't India fix this? A better question to ask is, who benefits if India stays this way? So who's responsible? History created a foundation. Governments didn't scale systems fast enough. Citizens didn't adapt their behaviors fast enough. The global system applied pressure without support. This is not a failure of identity, it is a failure of coordination. And when a system fails this visibly, the world doesn't analyze it. It simplifies it, it generalizes it, it puts it into a stereotype. Now zoom out. Why does this turn into global mockery? Scapegoat theory. Let's find a scapegoat. There is economic anxiety, environmental pressures, a world which is constantly more imbalanced. So let's blame someone. Let's find a scapegoat. Let's blame the immigrants who are here to make your lives better and their lives better as well. Cultural hierarchy. Some countries are still always looked down upon as they are less. They are still developing. But who got to decide what is developing and what is developed? We also have selective empathy. Some countries are looked at with empathy and some countries are looked at as if they don't even deserve the empathy. We saw how when the Ukraine and Russia war happened, and when the Palestine and Israel war happened, the white refugees from Ukraine were looked at with a lot of sympathy, but the not white, brown immigrants, brown refugees, war refugees from Palestine, were not even looked at as humans to be felt something for. India often becomes content, not context. So the same world that hires Indian talent, relies heavily on Indian labor, also gets innovation systems implied and implicated and implemented by Indian founders, also says that Indians are taking their jobs. Indians also internally amplify these stereotypes, create the segregation from within. Self-mockery becomes kind of a global narrative. So this becomes a problem internally and externally. Recently, I was out with a few friends and one of my friends had their family over and the family had their family friend over. Now, this 75-year-old Uncle G, when he got to know that I'm from India, he came and he sat next to me immediately. The first thing he told me, oh, you people from India, you don't use toilet paper, you use water. Gas spray is very common. It's a very basic plumbing technique which exists for years and it actually is way cleaner. Have you tried it ever, Uncle G? I told him actually is way cleaner than just using paper. Then he went on to say, oh, India is filled with women who are not literate. India is filled with women who are not literate and who cannot vote. Now, these were not just assumptions, these were declarations that he was making about my country that he's never been to. Forget India, he's never been to Asia in general. So these were stereotypes that he had created in his mind to exercise a kind of superior power over my country or people from where I come from. And I told him, Indian women not only vote, but we've had our first woman prime minister 60 years back, something many Western countries still are debating. His remarks were filled with misinformation and breathing stereotype. What I encountered was a soft, informal way of what we call in post-colonial theory, the colonizer and the colonized gaze. It's a worldview shaped by power imbalance that describes and believes that the Western states have more power and anyone that is not from the Western state or systems is lagging behind. Even after colonialism ended, this kind of system or assumption or belief still exists in daily lives. Hygiene is measured with Western norms. Toilet paper is equal to modern. Water is equal to primitive. Democracy or education or literacy is assumed to be weaker if it's not in the West. Women's rights are assumed to be non-existent unless proven otherwise. Entire countries are flattened into stereotypes instead of understanding their complex systems. What makes it extremely specially insidious because it comes with a layer of, oh, it was a joke. Oh, I was just joking. This is just my way of joking. I'm just a funny person. It's often disguised as curiosity or humor. The just joking defense is also part of the structure. It protects the speaker from accountability, while at the same time the stereotype is voiced. One side has historically been defined as the civilization. The other has historically been defined rather than being allowed to define itself. Correction is often looked at as aggression rather than restoration of accuracy. So I wasn't just debating misinformation, I was interrupting an inherited hierarchy of knowledge, which was false. So if you are from a non-Western country, and if you ever find yourself at the receiving end of this so-called joking conversation, or when they disguise it as curiosity, just know that you are not required to translate your entire culture just to make someone feel comfortable in their ignorance. You're also not supposed to give like a TED talk explaining them the facts. Sometimes correcting is enough. Sometimes walking away is also enough, because many a times you will realize that you are actually speaking to a wall. So when you're speaking to a wall, you're just gonna waste your own energy. And sometimes laughing at the absurdity is also power. Because the issue was never about your country being less than. It was about someone being poorly informed and being extremely confident in their ignorance. A world built on centuries of extraction, colonization, and looting doesn't get to define what is civilized today, doesn't get to define what is progress today, doesn't get to define who is developed and who is developing. You don't get to build wealth and call yourself the benchmark of civilization and the official definition of progress. That's not history. That's funny. India needs to invest in decentralized waste systems, formalize recycling networks, and strengthen their local and central governance. The world needs to stop reducing immigrants to threats and recognize their contribution along with competition. The internet needs to stop confusing viral content with reality. Question what is being shown to you. Is this the reality, or is this just one part of one country, which happens in every country? Every country has one part which is not the most beautiful. Every country has parts which are dirty. Every country have behaviors that are not the best. So yes, India isn't as clean as it should be, but the internet isn't also so self-righteous as it should be. The internet isn't as honest as it always pretends to be. The real issue isn't just what India looks like. The issue is what the world wants India to look like. Because a country is not your comment section. A country of 1.4 billion or any country is not your meme. And 1 billion people are not a stereotype. India needs a lot of work. But you need to also understand when you criticize countries, where does your criticism comes from? Where does your criticism comes from? From one viral TikTok video, from one viral YouTube video, which is just being segregated by the algorithm without understanding the history, the implication, the results, without understanding the history, the politics, the actual systemic problem at hand. at local level. So please, the next time you turn a country into your meme or a comment, understand. Use a little bit of empathy to really understand why is everyone being targeted in that manner. Understand who benefits from it. And understand that you need to look at the other person also with a bit of empathy and kindness. That goes a very long way. You have YouTubers or content creators who go to India to look for that shock value, and that is what they promote. The American YouTuber Tyler Oliveira went to a cow dung festival in a small remote village in India. He went to the festival and he said, "This is the most dirtiest thing that I've ever been to." Well, he meant it literally because he was in the middle of a cow dung festival. Content creators go to certain parts of India and just focus on one little thing from a billion things, then it amplifies a narrative that, oh, Indians are dirty. Indian people are shitty. So do better. If you are really talking about certain aspects of India, don't just stick onto one shock value for that view. Look at the broader picture. Please report or show more responsibly.
Could you not go to a country just because you've seen a few videos online or a few people online have voiced their opinion? This always seems to baffle me when I see loads of comments on my videos saying I could never go to India. Like, the only reason these people don't want to go to India is because they've seen a few videos of some dodgy or unhygienic street food. Like, how could you literally let a few videos determine whether or not you go to a country? It just blows my mind. Like, India is one of the most magical places I've ever been to. I've honestly met some of the nicest, some of the most intelligent people. They're kind, they're hospitable. I've had some of the best food. I've seen some of the most fascinating things. India is literally filled with some ancient history that's gone on to shape so much of the modern world. The country itself is made up of thousands of different languages, cultures, ethnicities, different climates, landscapes. You have snow, deserts, beautiful beaches. Don't get me wrong, I don't want to sugarcoat it. India has problems like every other country on this planet. But if you're literally going to let a few videos define whether or not you're going to go to a country, then I guess that's your loss. You know what? Don't bother coming to India because you probably don't deserve to come here because